Hello, hello everyone. I just want to talk a little bit about Tekken. I want to talk about like how we can actually save the game. I believe the game is savable. It's just I believe the game has like core game problems, and like I need to explain something before we start. It's like just explanation of how Tekken used to be and how Tekken looks now, right? So to begin with. Did 50-50 ever never exist in Tekken 7? No, it always existed. 50-50 always existed, okay? And forced 50-50 situations always existed, right? But the difference between Tekken 7 and now is that you had to play neutral before you were capable of doing the 50-50. Some people tell you 50-50s in Tekken 7 was not, for example, mandatory because, for example, they give you the example of Kazuya where you can step all his moves to the left. If you walk to the left, you basically step his hull sweep and his 4-4-3. This move and this move, right? So if you actually do this, right, you are completely right. But if Kazuya knocks you down, this is a guaranteed 50-50, by the way. So, now this is a keyword. Kazuya has to knock you down. Or, back in Tekken 7, in the last season, when they introduced the wall tackle thing, it also introduced new era of 50-50. But let's not count that because it was the worst part, the worst times of being a Tekken fan at that time, right? So, 50-50s and forced 50-50s used to always exist, right? But the problem with Tekken 8 is that, sorry, the cool thing about Tekken 7 is that in order for you to force the 50-50, you have to land something, a knockdown, or you are in a position where you knock down or you did a combo and then you choose to drop your combo intentionally, that you will have Oki so that you do something like that. You know, this was the case of Tekken 7. You had to do like a setup for it to force the 50-50 that made it interesting and made it high level. You know, it was not like you will not find anyone playing the character and be capable of forcing these 50-50s relative to the other, and it differentiated between a good player and a bad player. Another thing also is that you had to play neutral. For example, if your opponent always sidesteps, you can catch them with, for example, the mid pokes. You know what I mean? So you can catch them with the mid pokes, and sorry, with the pokes that tracks to that direction. So you have to play poking properly. You have to play neutral properly, right? In order for you to make your opponent start respecting you and start holding back instead. And once that happens, then Kazuya gets access to the 50-50. So it becomes earned. This is the reason why we Tekken players back in Tekken 7, despite that 50-50 existed, it still felt earned, right? You do not get it for free. You had to work for it. You know what I mean? And something also that kind of made 50-50s more interesting in Tekken 7 is that even though you can have a 50-50, but it was still a two-player gameplay, right? You get your turn, your opponent also gets his turn. So it becomes a back and forth gameplay. It does not feel one-sided. So for example, Kazuya, if he commits to the mid option, he is minus. He loses his turn. And if he goes for the low option, it's launch punishable on block. You know? It's launch punishable on block. So in this situation, it's like not only that you have to work to guarantee or build up your 50-50 situation, but also if it was a two-player situation, it was a two-player gameplay, you know? So what happened in Tekken 8? Well, I'll demonstrate it here. Now you're locked into a plus, into plus, into plus, into plus, into plus, and she could go for one more move, yeah, like that, into plus, and yeah. You are locked into this situation where you are locked into plus frame after another plus frame after another plus frame. And by the way, this is after a move that is very easy to do, which is 4-4-2. And this move has high coverage. And this move, you can make it track if you delay the second hit, right? If you do the forward and delay the second forward, right? You can make it track. So imagine a neutral skip move as strong, like as good as this one, actually leads to this situation. And all of this situation, all of these, what you just saw, I am forced to block. It's very, like, this is what defines Tekken 8. A neutral skip move, a neutral skip move that leads to plus frames, that leads to guaranteed situations, and then you end up into a situation where 50-50 that leads to another, that leads to another, that leads to another. I'm using Lydia as a reference, but she's just an example because she's the obvious one. But in reality, this applies to all characters in the entire game. Like, for example, Kazuya. Whatever I talked about in Tekken 7 now almost does not apply. For example, now in this game, yes, he used to back then rely on these. Now, his weakness that he had to play with poking to fix it, he can just fix it with. It's a homing high heat dash launcher. Or that is plus on block. Right? So you end up into a situation where like even the identity of the characters that used to play this well thought, super good and fun to play, two-player playstyle gameplay no longer play that anymore in this game. So the core backbone of the game is super bad. And the reason behind this is the existence of heat. So, in my opinion, I believe there are so many. I believe the game can be saved, but there are so many changes that directly targeting heat, in my opinion, that can possibly just it can be blanket changes, can be applied for all characters, and it just can save the game. In my opinion, I believe it will save the game, even though there might be some imbalances with the character in specific moves, right? But as an overall, it will still be like a competitively viable game. Which is first, I will start with the heat changes. You have the heat dash launchers. If you remove the heat dash launchers, right? Imagine how many moves in the game will just become balanced. They will be balanced in a way where you can now take risk to play. You can now feel like you can take risk. Part of the reasons why this game is super stressful to play because both options that you are deciding to take, like for example, if you're playing against Lydia and you're blocking the sequence of attacks, right? If you duck, you die. But if you stay standing, she has other options, right? That she also can do that will also kill you. You know? Same thing with Kazuya. If you want to sidestep this, you have to take in consideration that you might eat this, sorry, you might eat this and risk your entire life, or you might eat this and risk your entire life as well. So it does not make sense. It's like either you lose your entire life or you risk your entire life attempting to play properly against the character. So the counter play that used to exist against these characters almost in like it does not exist. It just does not exist. Right? Just because of the existence of heat, right? And in my opinion, this should not be the case of the game. In my opinion, it's like imagine so many counter hit launchers, like for example, Lost 10 frame counter hit launcher will stop being a heat dash launcher. Eddie, for example, he has 443, his low that is in heat for some reason is a counter hit launcher, right? A power low that gives him a guaranteed 50-50 being plus 6 on block, right? On hit, sorry. That is only minus 14. So it's like it does not make sense, you know. It does not make sense having so many like these type of super strong tools. They just give you like insane amount of mileage just because It's a heat dash launcher, right? In my opinion, if it's not a heat dash launcher, you have to keep in consideration these moves become +5 on block. These moves become +5 on block. So you're already rewarded. Second thing, these moves wall splat, right? And these moves in hit, it gives you plus frames +9, where you can apply a 50-50. Besides that, on hit, the heat engagers gives you insane amount of health recovery, right? And also, it's better to keep your heat because now you have more incentive to actually use your heat moves, right? Um, your heat move instead of just wasting it with a safe on block, like a win-win button situation. Like it just, in my opinion, removing heat dash launchers will make the game much more focused on neutral playstyle, and it just is going to allow you to play the game much more comfortably relative to right now because of these moves. They are like neutral skip moves, by the way. Like for example, with Kazuya forward forward two, with Brian QC forward 1+2, with Lydia forward forward two, and like you get like multiple different characters, right? They have like different neutral skip tools that allows them to get this type of heat dash launcher. Like it's just high mileage, high coverage, covers from like across the screen, and in the same time it's just like heat dash launcher. It just doesn't make sense, you know, and it has insane tracking and all of that. So in my opinion, these moves should be like, if the heat dash launcher is just removed, right, just removed, people will not be afraid to step anymore. You can use your movement in this game, the buffed movement that you can play with. You're now not afraid to move. You're not afraid to, like, you're not gonna play like this anymore. You know what I mean? Now you can actually commit. So it's something that is really good, and it will actually benefit the game in a healthy way if we just remove the heat dash launches from the game in general. Something else that regarding heat, why, why, why there is heat recovery, bro? Why there is heat recovery? Why? If you remove heat recovery moves, right? It's going to reduce the amount of 50-50 that you have access to in this entire game. For example, um, I do not know combos. Um, oh my god, I keep forgetting the combos that I want to do. Okay, let's allow Kazuya to almost finish his heat. Okay. Now I get a chance to even apply one last mix-up with the heat. Like for example, I can even use like moves like down back one. It's just what's it called? Down back 1+2 or whatever, right? The 13 frame heat engager for Kazuya. So it just does not make sense, you know. It really does not make sense, in my opinion, to have like this heat recovery moves. It adds more to the 50-50 bullshit. It kind of adds more to the timer for like now. The problem with Tekken is heat, and now you're giving these characters their problematic version of themselves much more time to exist in during the game, which makes it more unbearable to play and makes it more exhausting to play as well against when you're playing against these type of characters. So another thing is the the heat smash. Why are you capable of doing heat smash of stances? If you remove the capability of characters to be able to use heat smashes of stances, it will also reduce the amount of 50-50 that exists in the game. For example, Leo used to play with this stance. He had to cancel it to do it again and again and again because he's threatening his opponent with this counter hit launcher or threatening his opponent with this, right? This is the majority. This law was not that major, and it was majority of the gameplay is was like, you know canceling the forward four into another forward four and play with the +9 situation, right? Now you don't need this anymore because back then, like Leo players had to at least play, and you as the defender, you had no risk standing in front of him more. You know, you could just like play, no problem. There's no issue. You know, and what is happening now is that you can heat smash, and with the addition of season two stuff, the EX low heat smashes. Sorry, I forgot the input. Can you stay in approach, please? Okay. With the addition of the low heat smashes, right? You know, it's like you can't even get a wall splat with this. By the way, honestly, it's stupid. I don't want to talk about Leo to be honest, but let's just keep it there. Okay. Like you can get a wall combo with this, and imagine, like you're being +9, and you can also do this. You get a combo with this shit, bro. It's I don't really get it. So if you remove the heat smashes of, for example, if you remove the heat smashes from stances, I do not know who was the idea behind this shit. It will actually reduce the amount of 50-50s that exist in the game alongside with what's it called, with heat recovery moves. Also, in my opinion, I think another factor that plays in the reducing the amount of 50-50s in the game is that the fact that a character like, for example, Claudio, like, or Brian or whatever. I'm gonna get Claudio for example because he's the obvious one. Um, for example, a character like Claudio, for example, he can get the max combo damage alongside Oki. Why? And he has a low heat smash, right? This is another thing. Like players need to give up something. You know, I'm against nerfing combo damage overall because of the recoverable HP. If the recoverable HP stays the way it is, right? In my opinion, um, I think what's it called? I think the recoverable HP plays a big part of actually balancing the damage in this game. It's okay for the game to have like big damage, but at the same time, as long as the recoverable HP is there. The problem why we feel this damage is huge is that the fact that one player plays, right, does this super damage on you, and it's still his turn. And it's still his turn. It's still his turn to play. This is the problem. If you get to play, in this situation, then you will be actually capable of using the advantages of having a recoverable HP. It's like you have a recoverable HP that you are unable to use because you don't get to play. It's like imagine you're playing against Lydia and you are now like blocking, like you ate a combo from her and now you're blocking the sequence. Like good luck with that. You know? Um, like imagine you're blocking all of this sequence just after like a full combo or attack or whatever. This is another aspect that needs to be looked at, and in my opinion, like the max combo damage should not give you the max Oki. In Tekken 7, Claudio used to get the install buff, right? If he had the install buff, he used to get the almost like similar damage, and he used to get like the max damage combo at the wall alongside an Oki setup. But it was okay in Tekken 7 because in Tekken 7 he had to actually get the install before. He had to get an install. There was nothing like heat or whatever, so he had to land a punish, or he had to land like specific attacks. Like He had to land some specific attacks for him to get the install. And once he gets the install, he can do the wall combo, right? And all of his install moves actually had a wind up animation, like how he is right now, or how he is right now. You cannot take advantage of the install in Tekken 7, right? So you cannot make like a combo where you get the install and then you also get the max combo damage at the wall in Tekken 7. So it was not possible. So they had to have it prepared before they actually reached the wall in order for them to be capable of using it. It was a one-time use thing and they had to strategize it from the beginning. So it made sense, right? Now there is no risk in it. There's no give up in anything now. This shit is monkey playstyle, bro. What is this? So, so now you get the max damage with max Oki with a low heat smash and homing mid, the wall splats and unblockable. Like, you get you get the picture, okay? So in my opinion, I think the combo damage, like, I don't care about like it being high. I think the recoverable damage kind of offsets it. But the problem here in a different area. The problem is the Okizeme that you get from the wall, because if your opponent, if you want to use your Oki, you have to give up your damage. You have to give up your damage. In this situation, okay, now you actually give your opponent more time to live, your 50-50 bombardment bullshit that you have afterwards. Why? Because you did not do like the max damage. And if you did your max damage, that means one situation. Your opponent gets to play and recover this damage that he took. So it makes absolute sense that you have to give up something for the other. Okay? It has to be like a strategy that you have to take. Why do you get the max damage alongside the max advantage possible? It makes no sense. Okay, so I believe if we tone this down, the game overall, the 50-50 situations will lessen, right? Another thing that will also play a huge part in it, which is something that, as I said, Claudio, Brian, they are like the install characters in general, they are not innocent from, something they have like almost an inherent luxury over any normal character that does not have an install. What is it exactly? Basically, when you pop heat like your opponent, you get to use your heat, right? You get to use your moves and all of that. But the difference is, because you have your install free that comes to you for free after the heat, after it finish, right? What will happen is you also have an additional free heat move. This already gives you, like, it's like, as I said from the beginning, the problem of the game is the heat. If you give these characters the chance to stay in this type of state for a very long time, it will become unbearing and people will start complaining about these characters. Heat, like, in my opinion, you should lose your install. Even if you had it before heat, you should lose it immediately after heat. You should never get your install after heat. Like, it should be separated. It should be like, once you use heat, you used it. Done. GG's. You lost your heat. You lost your install as well. You lose your heat, you lose your install, and this will also reduce the situations where, for example, a character like Claudio can do something like this, pop heat, get the max damage because of heat, and also get this string because of heat. And guess what? He gets access to it again and again. Wow. You know? So just imagine if you nerf this type of situation, you are going to nerf. Sorry, excuse me for that. You are going to nerf the amount of 50-50s that are forced in this game for free just because of heat activation. No strategies, nothing. Just heat activation, and you have this guaranteed 50-50 bullshit that it just exists situations that it just exists there for free, right? So in my opinion, um, heat the install after heat, it should go. The the heat smashes, the wall splat should go. Like for example, like another thing, like 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 when we're talking about risk reward, this does not make sense, you know? Like when we're talking about risk reward, if this move is blocked, I have a guaranteed 50-50 that I can get wall combo, right? Let me save it. If this move is blocked, I forgot the combos, the optimal combo. But anyways, um, um, like you get this damage on block, like you get this type of 50-50 bullshit, right? And if your opponent decides to duck, you know, and if your opponent decides to duck, you get this and you get like 100 damage of this mid, right? But what if your opponent gets hit by this move? What is this, bro? It's like it's a win-win button in this situation. It's like you get 50-50 where they die if they guess wrong, or from the beginning, if they got hit by this, they die. It makes no sense, bro. It just makes no sense. Why heat smashes wall splat, bro? It makes no sense. In my opinion, like like these type of situations, these type of moves, like why do you have a heat smash this powerful, right? Gives you a guaranteed 50-50 afterwards. Heat smashes should never wall splat and give you a full combo. And in my opinion, heat smashes should not give you a guaranteed 50-50 afterwards. It should not. But let's say in the least they could do, at least remove the heat smash being like like wall splatting, right? And in my opinion, it should actually help the game stabilize and reduce the amount of 50-50s overall. It's like all of these type of 50-50 situations that I'm talking about, and I feel like they're forced on you. As you can see, it's just heat focused. All of it heat focused moves, heat focused situations. They're just like it's all about the heat, the heat, the heat, the heat, and it's just the core problem of the game right now. It's the heat, right? So, in my opinion, I think to wrap the heat stuff, I think the heat smashes, the wall combos, the install, they should be removed, and the wall splatting thing. And last thing about the heat smashes, in my opinion, I think something that should be the case is that the heat smashes should not be a hard wall break or ground break. In my opinion, they should be like a normal break moves. Like they break a one single wall, but not a hard wall break, so they do not break the walls that require two hits to break it. You know, in my opinion, it should be the case with all heat smashes. And I believe if they want to balance the maps a lot more, make the majority of the maps and the breakable walls and the grounds double wall breaks. So now it becomes harder for people to just abuse the heat smashes and go from stage to stage and all of this type of stuff. And it makes the risk of you being in front of somebody who has access to heat smash much less riskier than before. So you can take risk and it can be a back and forth gameplay. It's not like you're in front of Hayachi in this situation, you're just waiting for him to throw it because it's better than eating that. You know what I mean? So, so it's like, yeah, this is the situation about Heat. I'm not done about like the general changes about the game because I think there are some few notes outside Heat that, in my opinion, I think should be adjusted. Which one of them is chip damage. Yes, chip damage, they nerfed it in season 2, which was super good. They did a really good job, but I believe the chip damage is not balanced properly towards all the characters, right? Some characters, like for example, Brian, Claudio, whatever, if they use their moves that kind of does, like for example, chip damage, right? Let me explain it. Trying to be quick with this shit. Chip blocking. Like the moves that does chip damage, they're locked behind moves that are minus on block. Super good, right? It's super, in my opinion. I think, okay, no problem. It makes sense. You can take like risk a little bit and just play with like moves that like you know, like his the moves that like plus on block, like they're not leading to chip damage. So you do not feel the pressure against Brian when he's just like pressuring you with chip damage. It just does not feel the case. It never feels the case with that. So, and Brian is not even a 50-50 character, right? So when you play against Brian, you don't feel like you're being pressured, or you're not gonna wake up out of nowhere and just be like, where my HP go, right? While you blocked everything. Meanwhile, Meanwhile, when you play against a character like Lydia, let me show you now. Look at my HP. Look how much chip damage I'm eating. So, this chip damage, I'm eating it against a character that can force these type of situations on me, that if I make the wrong read, I die. So, she can put you in a plus after plus after plus, and I'm eating this entirety of the chip damage, right? I went from 100 HP to 59, and I believe it even recovered like 4 damage HP in the middle. So it's like, let's say 45, 40. I lost 45 HP, right? Of a plus on block moves. Plus on block moves. And she could do one more plus on block move, which is forward for 2 at then, right? It's like, imagine she can do this, and she puts you like, you lose this entirety of your HP, right? Of just blocking, right? And then you end up in a situation where you're just one mix up away from death. You're now like, you become one mix up away from death now. It's like characters that require 50-50 now. Back then you could block against them, right? You could tolerate them a little bit because they have to commit at one point. But now they don't feel the reason to commit, bro. They have no reason to commit at all, right? They have no. Actually, it's me. I am the idiot if I try to duck in these situations. Why? Because it's actually in always in their favor to commit to the mid option. It's always in their favor. So she will go into from plus to plus to plus to plus and chipping you out until you're like one mix up away from death, right? And this can apply. It's not only Lydia. Just saying, it's the majority. Like it's a major issue with the majority of the characters in the game, but like the clear examples like Lydia and Leroy. You know, these are like the best two examples that I can explain, right? So in my opinion, I think the chip damage should be toned down because it's going to make it more tolerable to deal with the 50-50s. Yeah, you can give characters 50-50s and give them more offense, but allow the people that playing against you to defend more against you, to have more time to see what is going on and be capable of taking risks and guessing wrong. Like, why should I be punished for my entire life for guessing wrong? Okay, if you want to force these 50-50s, if you want to give the casuals situations where it allows them to play like this, then allow me as the defender more time to be able to make a like an educated guess on my opponent. Like try to have more time to see my opponent when they are playing and I'm playing the 50-50 and actually understand their tendencies. Give me more time for that. You know what I mean? So it's like this is my view on the chip damage. This is the reason why I think it needs to be nerfed further. It used to be more absurd in season 1 and they did a good job nerfing it, but I believe it needs more toning down in general, right? The backdashes in this game should be buffed, right? But it shouldn't be overly buffed. This is another thing that I want to talk about. So I am with buffing backdashes to make it similar to Tekken 7, right? Tekken 7 backdash was not bad. It was really spot on, right? It was super balanced in my opinion. I'm not talking about the few characters, the exceptional characters. Put these aside because these characters were breaking the game, and we know them very well, which is Kunimitsu, Afena, you know them, right? But I'm talking about the normal characters, like in the normal form, right? Backdashes in this game, in Tekken 7, were good enough, at least that you can forward dash bait a move that, for example, your opponent always likes to react to your forward dash and does a down forward two, for example, the generic down forward to the mid launcher, for example, right? Or likes to do a hop kick or whatever. And you know this tendency. You want to bait it out. But if you want to bait it out in this game, if you do a dash forward and you do a back dash, you are unable to get out of range because of how bad the backdash is, for example. And it makes it so annoying to play because now it feels like if you close distance, you have to close distance and stay blocking. Like like that. You just it's like it's very hard to play. And you have to sidestep. Like if you read these type of situations, you gotta sidestep, right? And if you sidestep, you're sidestepping in a game where it has so many neutral skip moves, like forward for two from Lydia, homing mids, for example, that launches you. For example, with Lydia. Um, wait, I forgot the move. Yeah, sorry. Um, I forgot the move. Yeah, imagine this is a normal hit. She can get a heat dash launcher. Um, So imagine you're playing as characters like, they have like a move that can heat dash launch you. Or if you're playing as Kazuya, for example, and back four, the homing high catches you, and then you're dead. If you play against Fakuram or whatever. So imagine you're playing against these type of characters, and you eat one of these heat engager homing launchers, and you're dead. So or if you play against characters like Steve, for example, that have insane tracking and you're incapable of doing something like that. So it's, in my opinion, I think buffing backdashes, in my opinion, it adds more to the gameplay depth. But in the same time, if it's similar to Tekken 7, not the exceptional characters, the normal characters, I believe the game will be in a better spot because, as I said, the game has so many moves, high coverage moves, right? So at the end of the day, buffing backdashes will not change that much of the game mechanics that are problematic and everybody's complaining about, but at least it will add more interesting interactions. Like as I said, in the poking department, you can bait something and launch, right? It's something very important in my opinion. I think it's super. It's going to make the game more fun for the casuals as well as it's going to make the competitive playstyle much more interesting to watch as well, right? And and last point that I want to talk about is the heat and the rage art. In my opinion, this is like a suggestion. In my opinion, I believe heat should like be um connected with the rage art. For example, if you never used your heat and you have your heat bar activated like full, like during the whole game, right? In my opinion, you should be rewarded, but by if you lose your HP and you go into the threshold of you activating heat, so activating rage, right? Now you can have your access, sorry, you can have access to your rage art. Now you can actually have your defensive tool. So the reason why I say this because heat majorly used in an offensive way, you know, it's used in an offensive way. So you are giving up your defensive tools for your offensive tools. But in the same time, I know that heat also can be used defensively, right? But the idea here is that you have to give your opponent, or like yourself, sorry, a decision to make. Do you want to have the heat with you and the rage art, or sorry, do you want to have the rage art or the heat with you? You have to take a decision. It makes it interesting, in my opinion. In my opinion, removing heat from it to being available for you from the beginning will make the game dull and not interactive, in my opinion. So I think heat actually is a good addition to the game. It's just I believe it's like something that was done. They took a risk with it to try new things, which is something that I respect about the devs for doing that. It's just, bro, like if you do something new, then you have to always adjust it because you're introducing something new that of course it will have a lot of problems. Of course it will not be balanced properly. You need more data, bro. Okay? So you have to adjust it like occasionally. Like you have to adjust it more often, and like quickly and not just leave us hanging for 1 year before you even fix the game. So in my opinion, I think rage and heat should be like an opportunity cost for each one, and you get if you want to use your rage, then you should save your heat, and if you want to use your heat, that means you're giving up your rage, which is something that is very important to. It's like it adds more kind of a nuance of interesting gameplay. It's not that much interesting in my opinion because in reality, what will happen is in high level, they will stop using Rage Art. Rage Art will never be the case. It's just my idea here is that Heat is so broken that it's so wrong for you to have Heat and Rage Art in the same time. It's so wrong. So if you want to see and watch high level playstyle, they will be using in this situation, they will end up using heat and utilize heat because heat is so much important, even defensively, right? Relative to the rage arts, right? Which is something that is very good. So now you allow the casuals to play the way they want, but in the same time, in the high level, it will be focused around heat and heat only, and it will make the game super interesting in my opinion, and it will have like more interesting interactions in general, and I think regarding this, we need to adjust the game also. Like, in order for us to apply something like this, we have to buff heat by one thing. Allow the player to decide when to activate the heat engagers. So, for example, if I do this, I activate heat engagers like I'm forced to activate it. It's just, it's not a decision that I can take, you know? But why can I not have the decision to activate it or not when I can do the same? I can activate the heat dash if I want, and I can not activate it if I want. So I have the decision to activate it or not, but at the same time I can just activate it if I want. But I do not have this luxury with the heat engagers. In my opinion, if you give this luxury to the heat engagers, like a lot of people wish this to be a case, but in this case you gotta give up the rage art. So a lot of people will have to give up the rage art, the existence of the rage art, alongside the Heat. You have to give up something, which was almost similar case to Tekken 7 when you had the rage drives and the rage arts, and you realize how much the pros will often use the rage drives over the rage arts because of how good and how much utility you had for the rage drives over the rage arts, right? But it's very difficult. Like if we were in a Tekken 7 situation or bubble, and then we had the rage drive available and the heat available, trust me, the game will be like people would have complained about that game as much as they complain about heat in this game, because it's very hard to give these two super strong mechanics that are above the character mechanics, or like the nuance that exist with the character move list alone, right? And you have like two super strong things available for the character. You gotta like add something extra, but not like too much. Don't overdo it. Having heat and rage auras together is just overdoing it in my opinion. So I think that pretty much wraps it. I hope um, I hope that kind of like sums it up. And I'm just letting it out. It's just something that was piling up in my chest, and I just wanted to let it out. But anyways, that's pretty much it. Bye bye.